Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Rivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are starting,
yes. Yes, we are starting.
Starting Spooky Scary Movie Month.
Spooky Scary Month.
I don't know if you can tell, we've recorded some of these out of order.
We've had a month, you guys.
It's been a busy month.
It's been a busy month. In trying to get ahead of ourselves, we have lost ourselves slightly.
We've
lost all perspective.
We've lost all perspective.
This is our first Spooks and Scares.
This is our first released chronologically Spooks and Scares. That's the crazy thing about these. We can schedule them. So sometimes they're like from the different versions of the past, and sometimes we're in our future.
It's really crazy how time works and how podcasting works. And it's all just a wonderful menage when you have a month where you're not doing any new releases and you're like, let's make it complicated for no particular reason.
We did this to ourselves.
This is our own fault.
This is our own fault.
It's a prison of our own making.
But we do have fun along the way. Today we are going to be talking about The Thing. We're going to be doing some spooks and scares this month, talking about some horrors, some thrillers and whatnot. So The Thing today. Later this week, over on our Patreon page, we will have our episode out on Jason X.
Scary for a different reason.
Yeah. If you want to hear us talk about some truly wild Canadian accents.
I like watching Jason X and then The Thing for the worst to best ratio of effects.
Yeah.
Not to spoil The Thing for anyone. We haven't started yet.
Its visual effects are better than Jason X, but that's going to be up later this week on our Patreon episode. And boy, howdy, that is a really fun episode. There's a lot of just strong Canadian accents in that movie of oh no, Jason, don't hit me with your machete.
We were living in our prime because we were like, we get to make fun of this ethically.
Yeah,
as
Canadians. So that's going to be available later this week over
Ethical comedy
over on the Patreon page. And then next week on the main line, we will be talking about Freddy versus Jason, and we'll be closing the month out talking about Event Horizon.
So there are, I like the spooks and scares are the quality really goes up and down. We're having a fun month.
You want to get the spectrum out throughout the month.
All the spooks, all the scares.
All the spooks, all the scares. But we are talking about The Thing today, and let's get into it. Let's talk about The Thing. All right, we have seen The Thing again. Neither of us for the first time. You've seen this before, right?
I've seen The Thing.
All right,
I'm human, and you better be human.
This is the type of thing that could have slipped through the cracks of a Diana viewing experience. I could easily see you being culturally aware of this, but not having seen it. But you've seen it before.
I have seen it before, and you know what? That's an absolutely fair question to ask because, as people will find out later this month, I have never seen a Freddy or Jason film. So your questions are valid.
Yeah, you're not a horror film aficionado. That's not your zone.
No, they don't scare me or freak me out. I'm just I got other things to watch.
It's just not for you.
Just not for Diana. Typically.
But what about this one? Let's start with the usual question. Diana, did you like it?
Oh, I love The Thing. This movie's incredible. I mean, the effects we're going to talk about at such length, and they're so goddamn incredible. The cast is really good. I've seen this only once before. I will say it is slower paced when you already know what happens. I will not say, I remember the first time I saw this, and it's I don't know who The Thing is. I'm assuming it's not Kurt Russell because he's the lead. And just on the edge of my seat, you feel the tension, you feel the conspiracy, you feel how they don't trust each other. On a second viewing, it is you appreciate the filmmaking, but you're not ooh, I wonder who The Thing is. So that kind of takes it away a little bit. But absolutely still an incredible movie, even if you know what's going to happen. The performances, just the technical aspects without it being oh, it's all about the technical stuff. It's still such an interesting, well done movie from end to end. There's nothing not to love about The Thing. Just It feels like they're actually in the Antarctic. It's incredible. The pacing. It's a wonderful movie. I'll give it a love. I rarely give out a love. The Thing deserves it. Andrew, did you like The Thing?
I love The Thing.
Of course you love
I love The Thing. This is I think like more my alley than yours. I'm glad it got you up to a love, but this always was a love for me. This remains a love for me. It's been a while since I've rewatched it. I was kind of even like caught off guard by myself to be like some moments retained really strongly in my memory and some I had forgotten completely. So like there's some stuff that's just a delight on rewatch where like you remember maybe a handful of visual effects, but sincerely there's not a bad one in the bunch. Like every single moment of a visual effect of practical effects and technique and the artistry of it could be its own documentary of how they got that one specific shot. Every moment, a masterclass in artistry. I think that this is a phenomenal film, top to bottom. Hard to find a complaint. I love it. It's moody. It's well shot. It's well lit. The set is incredible. The execution is incredible with a phenomenal cast of characters and just like, yeah, a great setup, a great premise, a great execution, visually, performance-wise, in every department, in every capacity. I love it. I love it. I couldn't recommend this more to people.
We both love The Thing. There's nothing not to love. I will say this is just a funny thing I remembered that I want to just say off the top. I think this came up on a previous episode, but like until very recently, the only Kurt Russell movies I'd seen in my life had been this and Tombstone, and I had no idea he was a comedic actor. Because I'd never seen any. I'm like, yeah, this and Tombstone. Serious drama actor Kurt Russell. Because he doesn't crack a single joke in this movie.
Yeah,
It is like stone-faced. And it should be. It works.
Whereas at the time, it was like, can comedic pretty boy pull this off type of a thing, you know? Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Yeah. Like, this is almost his, like Michael Keaton is Batman to be like the stand-up comic. Can he be a broody boy?
Beetlejuice is Batman.
So I think that I can see that. I can see how you'd be confused by that, not having seen, even his more action-oriented comedy like A Big Trouble in Little China.
Hadn't seen it. Haven't seen like Overboard.
Yeah, Uncle Ron.
I don't even know what Uncle Ron is.
See, I think you would actually like Uncle Ron. It's been a long time since I watched
I'll
that one.
That. I've liked more recent Kurt Russells, like, all the Fast movies, the Guardians performances.
Sure, yeah.
And I was like, oh, this guy can do comedy too and drama.
Hey, he's a man who's been cranking out the hits for many a decades. That's Kurt Russell, baby.
That's Kurt Russell. Is he the Thing?
That's a question that we will discuss. Before we get into further analysis of this movie, we do want to thank our sponsor of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Uncommon Goods.
Uncommon Goods is your secret weapon when you have to do your holiday shopping. You're going to find good gifts and goods there that are so unique, so interesting that you're not going to find anywhere else. It's going to be a delightful time of shopping for yourself or a loved one at Uncommon Goods.
Absolutely. Like, now is the time to get ahead of things so that you are not panicked. You don't get that quality surprise when you're panicked. You want to get ahead of things, get something that make people go like, ooh, like something a little bit different, something a little bit fun. When you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses with fine products, often made in small batches. They have some really unique and cool stuff. Like, one thing that I picked up from them that I just found to be a lot of fun, they have a lot of really cool national parks stuff that is just like really adorable, whether it's like a mug or a water bottle or an article of clothing. Like, they just have a lot of really fun kind of celebration of the outdoors for any outdoorsy person in your life.
Yeah, and they have like celebrations of other stuff. Like, I think what a really cute one is MLB candle collection. So it's candles that smell like baseball stadiums. So this one smells like Yankee Stadium and this one smells like Wrigley Field. So just if you've got like a baseball fan in your life, you're like, I don't want to get them cards or a jersey. It's like, here's like a super unique but like cute and cool
but campy
gift.
and cute, yeah.
Campy and cute, but also like, who doesn't need a candle?
Yeah, exactly. And Candles, clothes, mugs, like a wide variety and range. They got from art to jewelry, kitchen, home, bar, whatever category it is that you might be looking for, it will help you find it. And they've just got a really well laid out website that helps you kind of like break down who you're shopping for as well. You can kind of go by price bracket, lifestyle, or who that person is. You can really just kind of have a bit of assistance in getting some great gift ideas.
Yeah, or you can just be like, home, jewelry, whatever you need, whatever you're looking for. Great website, great stuff on it.
Fantastic stuff. We've gotten some fantastic stuff from them, and we appreciate them greatly. And to get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/TFS. That's uncommongoods.com/TFS for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. Thank you very much, Uncommon Goods, for your support.
Thank you, Uncommon Goods.
And back to The Thing, a movie that we are both just in love with.
Absolutely in love with. I will start though right off the top with a silly note of you talked about how there's things in this movie you didn't remember happening. I don't think either of us remembered that this movie starts with, we're going to show you the spaceship crashing onto Earth.
I had also completely forgotten that.
That is wild, because also an article I found was like how they made The Thing with literally zero CG, and I'm like, excuse me, there's a spaceship in the very first shot. Might be a model.
It might be a model, yeah. But still, it is wild how I have forgotten that this movie opens with showing us also like 100,000 years in the past.
Yeah, he didn't just crash.
Yeah,
so, as we find out later. So it's not like he crash landed. Or as it is
speculated, I guess. But still,
it was still frozen in the ground. It didn't just happen. So yeah, the Norwegians. So we get to see it land, and then we have 100,000-year time jump. And also, it is the most standard UFO spaceship I've ever seen. It is just like, here you go. This is the standard, and it crashes. And I'm like, the rest, this is such a terrible opening for such an incredible movie. Like, if you just showed me the first 30 seconds, I'd be like, well, we're in for a shitty camp fest of a film, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, first of all,
not shitty.
It's 1982. We hadn't seen the breadth of work of the possibilities that spaceships could be yet. We'd seen some interesting ones, but a straightforward saucer would get you where you need to be. That'll get you A to B.
That's fair. I mean, in the same weekend, E.T. opened.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you wanted spaceships that week, two great options.
A pretty wild time. Blade Runner also was out this weekend in theaters.
That's nuts.
It is nuts that three generational defining science fiction works were in theaters simultaneously.
Like, I can't even wrap that's the Barbieheimer of...
Yeah.
But three!
Yeah, if there was a third.
If it was like, I don't even know another great movie that came out this year that we can throw in there.
No.
Barbieheimer Mutant Mayhem. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was really good.
Yeah, that was really good. I was good, like, Barbenheimer was out like a week after Mission Impossible, which wasn't the hottest of the
it wasn't a great movie.
But yeah, maybe Barbenheimer is what we'll look back on as the crazy opening weekend of this year. But yeah, truly wild and genre-defying stuff. Wild as well that this movie bombed and was panned.
Absolutely bombed, and critics made fun of the effects?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And not just even like, because even the effects look incredible, but they're also filmed incredibly. Like, it is a combination of the artistry of the puppet work and like the models that were built and how much goo was thrown in there. But also just like sometimes they're shot and there's just like steam coming up and they don't give you a full perspective of the bodies when it's just like a fucked up dead one. Like, there is so much artistry here. What was wrong with everyone that weekend? Did they see Blade Runner first and E.T. first? And they were like, well, compared to those two, this is garbage?
Maybe. I think it's just the fact that there is blood and gore, and it has taken a long time and I'm not going to say that it's completely been removed, but for horror as a genre to be pulled out from a disrespected genre piece. You know, like horror animation, and there are a few other things that are like, and and animation isn't even a genre as much as it is a medium, but still there are certain areas of film that have been relegated to genre pieces that are meant to be disrespected, and it has taken a long time for them to come out of that. And I feel like it's partially this being a victim of that, of people at the time, critics at the time, being like, there's blood. This is a B horror movie for idiots. This is a movie for burnouts and burnout potheads who want to see a slash fest. Who cares?
Yeah, this is a Halloween or a Friday the 13th, but with dudes stuck in Antarctica.
Yeah. This is a violent alien.
Yeah,
Ugh.
that's fair. At a time like when this movie didn't exist yet as like a beloved, well-liked thing, and we hadn't gotten to like, I'd say the current age of like the Get Outs, The The Quiet Place.
Yeah, I mean, Last of Us you could easily say as well.
Last of Us, you know what? I guess that's why that slipped in. 'Cause
Yeah.
subconsciously my mind was like, don't forget Last of Us.
So I think it's partially that, and it's also just critics completely missing the mark as well. Like
Happens.
It happens. I think like one of the great examples of just like looking up information on this was that the score, for example, like the score of this movie. I know Diana traditionally does not notice music, but it is phenomenal. It is classic. It is not done by Carpenter, but it's like an impression of a John Carpenter movie. It's a very good score. A score that is basically an almost note-for-note identical one that the Metal Gear Solid video games use because Hideo Kojima loves John Carpenter. Solid Snake is basically Snake Plissken, and the soundtrack is basically the soundtrack to The Thing. A phenomenal soundtrack that was panned and won a Razzie for Worst Soundtrack. And the composer of this score, of this soundtrack, had leftover music that he didn't use in this film that was used in Tarantino's Hateful Eight recently, and he won an Oscar for it for Best Score.
Well,
so the scraps of this movie won Best Score today, and this won a Razzie at the time.
Well, that's your barometer of like they were just not going to respect a horror movie no matter what. Yeah. It sounds similar to, not similar, but like whenever I think of like critics got it wrong, I think of Batman Mask of the Phantasm when Ebert and Siskel and Ebert were like, man, Mark Hamill's Joker voice sucks. And I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You're wrong, sir.
Yeah.
Both of you.
They've gotten it wrong.
They can get it wrong.
Yeah, they've gotten things wrong over the years. I do respect Ebert over the years. R.I.P. Ebert over the years had occasionally gone back and been like, I was wrong, and admitted it and re-reviewed films.
Yeah, he wouldn't do that.
And I have a lot of respect for that because like hell, we've gotten shit wrong on this podcast, and we've never taken the L and gone back and redone it. So still a lot of respect for that approach.
Sometimes you're just sleepy or hungry when you watch a movie and you're like, it sucks.
Yeah.
And then you like eat a meal and you're like, nah, maybe it was all right. Get a little pasta in you.
You get a little pasta in you.
You're more forgiving.
Every movie is a little bit more forgiving as well. But yes, just a phenomenal movie that it's hard to believe that people didn't like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say it's not a movie that I don't have questions about.
Sure.
And not like the ambiguous ending kind of question, because that's like purposeful. I think I just have questions. I don't know what happens when the thing things you.
Uh-huh.
Like, does the thing have like a hive mind? Because at certain points there are like three things.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But is that like one being that is just using three bodies, or when the thing makes another thing, is it like a zombie? And it's a different person, but it's got the thing stuff in it now.
I think that these are all reasonable questions that I could hypothesize and bullshit an answer for you, but I don't think that the film makes it clear or is interested in making it clear.
I don't think the film makes it clear either, which is why the question's there. And I think our job is to hypothesize.
Okay.
So I'm curious what you I was curious what you think.
I do not think hive mind.
You don't think hive mind?
I do not think hive mind. So I'm not of the impression that like hypothetically, if this thing got out and took over every person on the earth, I do not think it's a hive mind. I do not think it's like they're all one entity collectively, but I do think that as it grabs and replicates these things, that it is almost like a cellular divide, that all of the cells that make this new copy are now a new creature collectively. So it's like the thing is a dog. If it had successfully grabbed 3 other dogs, killed them, made 3 other dogs, now there are 4 the things that are all separate entities with their own decision-making processes, is how I think of this, because they work independently.
They do work independently, and I think I agree with that. It is not made clear, but I think that's also where I would land, just because at times there are multiple things, and they never seem to be working in unison.
Ooh, yeah, that's a great point.
They're never like, oh, you tied up one of the things, but I'm loose. I'll go set you free. Or even if they... Because if they were a hive mind, they'd be sending like messages to each other.
Like, let's corner this person.
Yeah,
let's do this.
You, Blair, out in the cabin, who has a secret way out of the cabin, come cut me free.
They never work as a pack.
They never work together.
Yeah.
Even though there are definitely multiple things at times.
Yes, there are multiple things, and they are they're copying a pack animal, but they never function as a pack. So I think that that's a great sign that they're not a hive mind.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it from your angle of like they're not. They're flanking or communicating with one another.
Well, yeah, because I think one of my favorite parts of this movie is Kurt Russell has a speech, and I think they've just killed like one of the first things, and they're outside and they're burning the body, and Kurt Russell has this great speech of, I know I'm not human, and I know most of you, or I know I am human, and I know most of you are human, or else you'd all be attacking me if you were aliens. So that means we're winning the numbers game. And it's just this like, it's like, feels like unionizing against an invasion.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. He's like, we have the power right now. Some of you are aliens, for sure.
Yeah.
But we are strong enough to defeat the aliens. And it's just, but it's not motivational the way I'm emphasizing it. He is kind of exhausted about it, which kind of feels like picketing when you're on a strike. You're just tired. I might be bringing current day affairs into this film.
I mean, you might, but I love it. I think that there is a strength in numbers and a sticking togetherness that I do think that is one of the approaches of this film of like, this is how we succeed is by working together, and how we fail is by distrusting one another. And obviously the scary part about The Thing, both a film and a creature, is the distrust it breeds is what's scary. You know, Kurt Russell ends up, I think they end up shooting more human people than they do the Thing people.
I think they only kill one people.
I mean, the one guy that they shoot in the head.
Definitely him.
The Norwegian.
Oh, I guess. I mean, he was
a-
actively shooting a gun, but I see what you're saying.
That is fair. And then there was another dude tied down to a dead body tied to the pool table, and I can't remember who it was.
That was the doctor whose arms got bitten off.
Oh, I guess
and
he just died
bled
of blood
to death.
loss. Okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
I was also confused about that. That
Okay.
wasn't super clear who that body was.
Sure, okay.
But yeah, his arms got bitten off.
No,
so.
you got me there. So yeah, there is something to be said about like the collective bargaining of it all. I think that might be like a little imposing today, but I like that. I would say that like what I took away from that moment of his speech of like, I know I'm not the Thing. And one thing that this movie constantly does, which I think is actually like really powerful and really scary, is just the foolish confidence of everyone's self-awareness, but the lack of ability to impose that on others' distrust. To be like, I know I'm not the Thing, and I've said that, and I'm thinking that I'm not the Thing, and I give you my word. Shouldn't that be good enough? Like the foolhardiness of the ability to be self-aware, and how askew that puts your whole perception of the world. Like really every person should be in a circle being like, I actually cannot guarantee any of you that I'm not the Thing. I 100% cannot. But everyone's like, but I know I'm not. So that means that I am not, which is why I point a gun at you. Don't you get it? Don't you get it? A lot of main character syndrome from everybody in this movie, and I think that that's really interesting.
I don't find that part as interesting. I'm mostly more like, I know I'm not the Thing, but it's weird that this movie is so paranoid about like, you might be the Thing and we can't trust each other. But for like half an hour to 45 minutes, they just break up into separate rooms, even though they know there's an alien impersonating each other. And it's infuriating.
Yeah, there are at times it's a little illogical for them to break up.
Yeah, like
once they know that they are in a horror movie to a certain degree, like obviously they're not breaking the fourth wall, but once they know the general idea of what's going on and they break up, it seems quite silly.
Yeah, it does, because they'll leave people alone for such long periods of time. Like, I think this movie gets to be its coolest when Kurt Russell is like, we're all going into one room and we're not separating again until we know who the thing is. And it's the best sequence in the movie when he's testing the blood.
Yeah.
And so it's because there is something just so much scarier about competence. And when then people still die when you're doing everything right.
Yeah.
So when people die when they do dumb things, you're like, well, I would have been smart. But when they die doing everything right, like I'm going to test the blood, I'm going to tie everyone up, but then the thing still just like gets big and breaks out of the ropes, you're like, oh, fuck, I would have died.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. So for the most part, it's competence porn. For it's like 80% competence porn with like a touch of irrational behavior.
Just a touch of plot convenience separation.
Yeah. Versus like as we've discussed before, like a movie like Alien, which is like 100% rational behavior, with the exception of people who are actively betraying you. So yeah, there's a little bit of irrational behavior in there, but there's enough rationality that I'm along for the ride as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that this movie does really well that I love is that it's not a POV movie. It's not 100% from the perspective of Kurt Russell's character. It's not 100% from MacReady, but we see very little without him in it. There's maybe like a moment or two of like the chef is preparing dinner and won't turn his music down. Like just like these little kind of flavor moments, but there's not a lot of the movie without MacReady in it. But the world doesn't stop when he's in a different room, and that feels chaotic and very scary. Just stuff like, it almost feels like like an experiential like theater environment where it's just like you can miss things. So him having a scene and then he hears a gunshot and it's like, let's go check it out. And there's also a man scurrying from a helicopter. And it's like, which do I go check out? And also those things happen while I'm in a different scene and we never cut to them. And that is good horror. It's not cut away for convenience. It's not cutting to show too much. It is just, we are telling a story, but also it feels like there are scenes written that we never go to in a smart way where everything is always moving.
I love that and had not picked up on that is what was happening, but you're absolutely right. Kurt Russell is the main character, but he's not the main character of the universe. People exist when he leaves a room. Like, I think your best example that you gave is when he shows up late to Blair, like shooting people and destroying the radio room.
Yeah.
The doctor who like figures it all out before he gets thinged. So he's just like shooting people, he's destroying the room, but like Kurt Russell hears the gunshot and everyone else is already there. And you're like, wait, you're the main character. You have to be involved in this scene. And it's unsettling. You're like, what else am I missing?
Yeah.
If I am not even in an action scene that other characters have arrived at before me.
Yep.
So yeah, there is definitely an unsettling, like I can't control everything. There's too many pieces moving around.
And no one is going out of their way to expositorily fill him in at all times. Even things when they go to see when they go to see Blair, who's been like sequestered in that like cabin on his own, and they go to see him and he's made a noose on his own hanging from the ceiling.
And it's just kind of there.
And no one brings attention to it. And it's not like no one goes up to like Kurt Russell's character. No one's going up to MacReady and being like, hey, Blair's threatening to hang himself. No one expositionally fills him in. It is just something you show up and the set has changed and no one addresses it. And it's shit like that makes it feel very real and very upsetting. And it really does make it feel like when you leave, something could happen and you could miss it and it can doom you. To be like, we're changing the set while you're not there and not filling you in. Characters are changing when you're not there and we're not filling you in. And it's little things like that. Yeah, set dressing, sound effects, things happening, not just off screen, but in a moving world that is a moving mechanism that's always kind of turning.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, it's a great point about why it's unsettling.
Yeah.
About what feels like just a little bit off about this movie.
And that's such a rare thing for movies to do, to be like the main character isn't the main character of planet Earth. They are just the main character of the narrative that you are experiencing as you are experiencing it.
And then even after that, though, the movie for about like half an hour does make you wonder, like, he might be the thing. Because when Fuchs finds the one of the scientist guys finds MacReady's like outfit and it's been ripped apart, and it's like, that's how you know someone's been turned into the thing. And then we lose sight of Kurt Russell for a long time, and really until he like does the blood test, it's like, he might be the thing. Now we have an unreliable, not narrator, but kind of narrator, because he does a voice recording at one point.
I guess that's true.
Which makes it a narration effect.
A narration-esque, yeah.
But yeah, for about 30 minutes now, we have an unreliable main character, and you're like, is this a psycho situation, and the main character's gonna die like halfway through? So yeah, there's a lot of little unsettling things happening in the thing.
I mean, there is a lot of unsettling things. Talking about, the possibility of Kurt Russell's character MacReady being the thing. Do you want to jump to? I do want to have a discussion about the ending.
I would love to talk about the ending. I got notes and thoughts.
Let's jump to the ending between Kurt Russell's MacReady and Keith David, who plays Childs, the always phenomenal Keith David.
Always the phenomenal Keith David. I feel bad that I think of him as Keith David from Community. He's done so many things.
You don't think of him as Keith David Goliath?
No, I can't see his face on Gargoyles.
But his voice.
Oh, his voice, yes.
But okay, yeah, all right, that's interesting.
We rewatch Community a lot.
We do watch Community
and whenever he just
semi-regularly.
says that line, I'm nobody's fourth Ghostbuster, I'm just like...
That is a very good line.
I just love it so much. That's my Keith David.
All right. He's nobody's fourth Ghostbuster.
But also, I
You're
haven't
right.
watched Gargoyles since I was a kid. It's been a minute.
And that's fair. And that is fair. But legendary voice actor who's also, like Kurt Russell, been crushing it for decades. Keith David, Kurt Russell, both alive at the end. How do you feel about if one of them or both of them or neither of them are the thing?
Oh, man. I definitely don't think Keith David's a thing. Because they might both be a thing. They don't have any mental powers, apparently, to tell if one of them is the thing, as we've discussed earlier in this episode already. I definitely don't think Keith David's the thing. I don't really think either of them are, because I think if one of them was the thing and there's only two of them left, they would just attack each other. Or like whoever was the thing would be like, well, death to you. They'd go at each other. But I can't get over, there's a thing
Although, I don't know if they would, because the thing can be frozen. And Kurt Russell even says, as they're hitting such a freezing temperature, when Keith David's like, maybe we need to like fight one another. And Kurt Russell goes, neither of us are in any shape to tussle if we needed to.
Yeah.
So that could be something that like the thing is saying from the thing's perspective. Like, I don't have the movement and strength in this cold a temperature to come at you, even if one of us were the thing.
Well, even Kurt Russell also said, like, the thing wants to freeze.
Yeah.
But it wants to freeze in a place it can be rescued. So both of them would be okay with freezing at that point.
Yes.
I would say a thing that haunts me, that is the only thing that makes me kind of lean a little bit more towards Kurt Russell might be the thing. It's a very subtle thing. Earlier in the movie, one of the scientists points out, and this never gets called back really, that we should all make our own food and eat from cans because a tiny bit of organism can turn you into the thing.
Sure.
Kurt Russell hands Keith David his alcohol he's been drinking straight from his mouth. And if he was a thing and then Keith David took a drink, there'd be thing elements inside his body.
Interesting. Okay.
So, and then after Kurt Russell does that, he has a tiny little smile.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just infected Keith David with thingness.
I think he has
Because he also doesn't have a gun in that moment, and Keith David has a flamethrower. So I'm like, did he just subtly thingify you?
Now, here's where I'm suspicious of MacReady.
Okay.
I agree. There's a subtle smile that he performs. There's a subtle smile. It does coincide with the sharing of the liquor bottle, but it also coincides with Keith David agreeing to freeze to death. Mm-hmm. So Kurt Russell says like Keith David's like, what do we do now? And Kurt Russell says, why don't we just wait here a while? Kind of implying to be like, I'm tired. It's over. Let's freeze to death, kind of a thing. But it was the three of them who left the main base, and it wasn't until they got to Blair's cabin that Kurt Russell brings up that he says that he's like, I think that this guy would be happy freezing to death. Keith David wasn't in the room when Kurt Russell realized that.
He wasn't in the room when Kurt Russell realized he wanted to freeze.
So Kurt Russell, when Keith David's not in the room and Kurt Russell realizes, I think the thing would be fine and happy freezing to death and waiting for someone to find the body. And so we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. And at the end, he no longer has that conviction. and he's happy to freeze to death and recommends freezing to death to Keith David, whose character we would have to assume, maybe he's thought it off screen, but things like that would be kind of like a lot to assume. But like Keith David's character not knowing or not ever having it occur to him that the thing would be happy freezing to death is like, yeah, well, if we're both dead, I guess that's all the same as throwing us both in the fire. Whereas I think the original MacReady would be like, we both need to walk into the fire. So that makes me suspicious. But obviously it's also a purposefully open-ended, ambiguous ending that's meant for interpretation, and there's no actual clear-cut answer.
Yeah, but John Carpenter has said, like, it's ambiguous. You believe what you want to believe. Now, your last argument you just made convinced me in a separate direction, though. Because if Keith David doesn't know that the thing wants to freeze, then I feel like Kurt Russell's baiting him to find out if he's okay with freezing.
Oh.
If Kurt Russell is currently human, he's like, let's freeze. And Keith David's like, yeah, let's
Keith
freeze.
David, like, doesn't have a survival mechanism.
Yeah, because he wants to freeze if he is a thing.
Huh. But
so everything is possible.
But Keith David also does start by saying, you start, like, there's enough fire that it's pretty warm now, but it's not going to last through the night. What are we going to do? He's looking for a method. And so, but yeah, Kurt Russell does then suppose.
Oh, you think he's looking for a method to kill themselves? I thought he was looking for a method of survival.
I thought he was looking for a method of survival, which would imply that he's not the thing. To be like, I need some kind of a closed atmosphere with heat if we want to make it through the night. Yeah, and Kurt Russell's like, let's just die. Wink. Tough one. Tough one.
Damn it, I don't know where I land now. I still want to just say they're both human.
I do think that's brilliant writing, though, to really to have an ending that ambiguous that doesn't feel like bad ambiguous endings is something that feels like it's like the writer just stopped writing. Whereas good ambiguous endings feel like a natural conclusion where it's like everything wrote to this place. And if you backtrack at all, every opportunity also kind of makes sense. And this is just really good writing where everything comes to a head in a good way.
Yeah. You don't leave this movie and you're like, oh, well, what happened? You're like, oh, shit, I don't know which one was the thing. Let's talk about it. Let's do a podcast about which one of them, if any, was the thing.
I lean towards Kurt Russell at the end, but it's tough.
I still lean towards neither one. The thing would just kill whoever was still human.
Yeah. All right, well,
or
fair.
They're both things and they don't have a hive mind.
Yeah, there's definitely not a hive mind.
I would love if they were both things.
I think that there is definitely not a hive mind, but there's at least a secret handshake. Like if you were two the things in a room, you wouldn't be like like mind thoughts to one another. But I do think that there's like a special wink or a sense or I can smell you or something.
There's something going on.
I think that there's something that they can recognize one another.
A thing recognized thing.
Yes, thing recognized thing.
Definitely. I have to. Is this a negative? I at least want to make fun of this. The computer that the doctor is using to analyze the blood cells. And we have been specifically told it is 1982. There is no ambiguous technology time.
The visualization of what the cells are doing.
Which I guess I couldn't tell if that was like he wrote a quick computer program for himself or he took like a slide and put it into the computer and the computer was digitized it in 1982 and also has an active AI where you can type any question in and it'll answer it for you. In 1982?
There's a lot going on with that computer.
Yeah. What are the chances that someone here is an alien? 75%. But not even just 75%, like a full sentence response. Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. They can't radio for help. But he's got a computer that can do things I can't even do yet.
Yeah. And not just a computer that makes like a microscope big.
Yeah, I would totally accept a computer that makes a microscope big.
Because that's something we've also seen in movies done a bunch of times where it's like a bunch of little red cells, attack a bunch of little blue cells, turn the blue cells red. We get it. Zombie virus visualization, classic movie, TV thing. It's doable without the digitization of it, I think. But that's also just... That's also strongly a Carpenterism as well, which is just these kind of like these CRT DOS operating systems, rocking a somewhat Star Warsian, just like a slightly future adjacent type of computer program, is also just kind of like a Carpenter style, I would say.
Okay, I don't know when else he uses it, but I'll
Okay.
take your word for it. Yeah, it feels like the inverse of Alien, because like there's scenes in Alien where they talk to the computer, but that's way in the future, and I'm like, that computer is so old and like shitty.
Yeah.
And then like you have this movie where you're like, it's 1982, Doc.
Yeah.
You're not getting warned by the computer that this alien is going to destroy the world in 27,000 hours.
They have a full computer that's dedicated to just chess.
That he ruins.
Which is rude as shit.
That is rude as shit. Yeah, technology's at the point where the only thing a computer can hold is chess. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. You need
Just
a
chess.
full computer to just play chess, because it said chess wizard on it, on the computer, not on the screen. So that's all it did. And Kurt Russell lost, and then he poured his vodka into it and ruined it. So now they're there for like 3 more months and no one gets to play chess.
No one at all gets to play chess, and Kurt Russell has less Jim Beam as well.
It was a double waste of resources.
Doubly wasteful.
Now, I actually, while saying this though, I do think I've picked up on subtle, like, weird hints that maybe Kurt Russell is wrong at the end of this movie. They open this movie by showing that Kurt Russell is bad at strategy. He loses chess to a computer.
Oh, that is an interesting. I don't know if I would say that he's bad at strategy, but he's
not great at it.
He's not great and is overconfident. It opens with him being like, "I've won. This is the move where I win."
Got you, bitch.
And then he fails.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting perspective of the opening to closing of this film. Mm-hmm. I like that a lot.
I really have liked what I'm picking up on here, John Carpenter, and what you've placed in this film. Yeah, it really kind of emphasizes that he probably fails at the end of this movie, I think.
How he fails, we're not. But I see what you're saying, that he fails in some way.
And he just likes to burn it to the ground after he fails.
Fucking hell.
So I think that chess game was really just a microcosm of what he's going to do later.
Oh, that maybe he does succeed by destroying the game that we're playing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not beating chess, but chess is destroyed.
It's a draw. I'm going to say it's a draw. If there's no record of who won or lost, that's a draw.
That's a draw.
Yeah. That's a very interesting perspective there.
I'm very good.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I want to talk about the Norwegians for a minute. What the fuck do y'all have going on? What was this? What was your situation?
I think the Norwegians did a great job.
I think they did a pretty good job. One really bad soldier.
What did he do?
He blew up his own helicopter and then got shot.
That's who you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Who did you think I was talking about?
I'm talking about the guy who slit his own throat really deeply for some reason.
That one's also kind of bananas.
Yeah, and like he also had cut his wrists.
So like they imply that this gentleman unalives himself because he doesn't want to be turned into the Thing, which we don't even know. I don't even know if that's necessarily would prevent the Thing from becoming you.
They'd have to burn your body.
I think you would have to burn your body.
They wouldn't know that yet.
Yeah, they wouldn't. They might not know that yet. But it's a man who is holding like a razor blade and has cut wrists, and then it pans up, and his head also has the throat cut, and his head's almost cut off.
Yeah, it's really deeply.
Too much to be like. It doesn't follow the same narrative for some reason.
Yeah, it's like there is too deep a story there of like he went to cut his own wrists, and then maybe someone tried to cut his head off to be super sure.
Yeah.
Something happened there. So that guy is who I thought was the not incompetent, but the most questionable. Like, I don't know your story.
Yeah, I think the soldier who drops a grenade next to his helicopter is the most incompetent. Yeah, and trained soldier as well. Like, they even show dog tags. Like, he is a trained soldier because this facility, like Kurt Russell's facility, these are scientific researchers. Mm-hmm. The Norwegian facility, they went there to dig up an alien spaceship and successfully did.
Oh, that was their goal. I thought they just found it.
I mean, I think they accidentally found it, but when it cut to like when they were showing like the VHS tape footage of them, it is a like battalion of soldiers with explosives exploding out a circle
They did have
and
explosives.
perfectly mining out a thing. This wasn't a like, you know, like a different like random weather research station accidentally, while ice fishing, exposed an alien. They dug up an entire like football field size alien spaceship and dug out like caskets of aliens. So it's like y'all should have been prepared for a lockdown a bit better than this, I think.
I guess.
You shouldn't have done almost as well as 10 randos with no preparation.
I mean, I think that's tough when like I don't know how. I mean, you're right that they dug out such a huge amount of the ship. It just didn't also feel like they had very many people there. So I'm really torn on this one.
Okay.
Because they're also pretty close to ending the thing. Like it's just that one dog.
Yeah.
And if they had shot it from the airplane,
they would have to get down there and burn it, but that would be it.
But it'd be it.
But that would be it.
So they were pretty close for guys who just had no warning whatsoever.
Yeah. Fuck, if one of these Americans spoke
Norwegian.
They could.
I mean, also, I actually think it's kind of one of, I think, the subtle weird things is how much they trust this dog. Because if I saw two soldiers desperately trying to kill a dog to the point of blowing myself up, I'd be like, what did this dog do? I wouldn't think it was an alien, but I would be like, this dog has rabies. This dog killed someone at their base, and they want to make sure it's put down.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be like, let's let the dog loose in our camp.
I mean, I think a lot of blame goes on the camp captain who shoots a Norwegian soldier in the face, where it's like, yes, he grazed one of your dudes and is now running away, is clearly not attacking an American research base.
No, he's going for that dog.
Yeah. You shot a man who was hunting wildlife and winged you, but you did a cold-blooded headshot of it. Like, you started... this was already an international incident, but he doesn't know. He started a potential international incident by executing a Norwegian soldier for hunting and like grazing them a little.
Yeah, if that guy had just been like, that dog has rabies, it killed a guy at the base, I really want to kill him, then you just started an international incident over that for sure. That's a great point. But also the guys at the base are like, Cap finally got to use that gun he's been carrying around. And I'm like, why do you just carry a gun around on a scientist base with 8 people in it?
Yeah.
That is like, have you been looking to do a kill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say
like that.
I'm going to say yes, and just a general perspective, like the film is portraying a general cultural perspective of Americans as well.
Yeah. I got that impression when they also just had a gun safe.
Yeah.
Like just a whole wall of guns. Like I understand why you have flamethrowers in the Antarctic.
Sure.
Things are going to ice up.
Yep.
You need emergency fire. I absolutely understand flamethrowers.
I guess that's how they did that then. That's how they de-iced some stuff.
Yeah.
It seems inefficient, but sure.
Sure. I don't, or like, you got to like make a nook to build a building in. You got to burn a bunch of ice down.
Sure.
But why you would have a whole cabinet full of shotguns on the continent that doesn't have animals? Is Antarctica the one that doesn't or does?
Doesn't.
Just penguins.
It's a desert, technically.
Yeah. So literally that's just for man?
Yeah.
Literally you would only
in case
need
someone
guns
gets a little loopy.
for man.
Yeah.
So don't love that.
Yeah.
Very American of their base.
Yeah, and also like I think a perspective that that I could think of one other big example, but like other horror movies of the time did, like Night of the Living Dead also famously does that as well, which is just like, yes, there are zombies, but also one of the horrifying things is just a white dude with a gun
who
just looks at someone that looks at someone different than him and just shoots them in the head because they don't need to check twice as to what the problem is.
And just walks away proud of himself.
Yeah. So it's like that is also
ending.
a 1980s cultural critique of America. So yeah, I think that that guy was itching to fire that weapon.
Itching to have a kill.
Yeah, itching to have a kill, to use his little handgun that he has a cool belt holster for.
He's a cowboy.
He's a cowboy. Even McCready has the great hat.
Oh my God. I love this hat. There is so much happening on Kurt Russell's look. Like, I love that he grew this huge beard because, yes, your face would be so cold. Everyone would have a beard.
Yeah.
It would protect you wildly. Also, his hair, luscious, beautiful, gorgeous. The conditioning they have in Antarctica. The feathering effects.
Man looks great.
Hairdressers. Man looks incredible. But yeah, I love this giant cowboy hat he has Because whenever I watch a movie with like an isolationist feel, like you're on a spaceship, in Antarctica, you're in a place with no stores, no easy way to get things. Whenever someone has something silly, I'm like, you packed that. They told you could bring one suitcase to Antarctica, and you said, well, I'm going to need my giant cowboy hat.
Big brim hat.
It's the biggest brim.
Big brim.
And like a hat is kind of more understandable because you can wear it on the plane ride there. But when people have other silly things, I'm like, you didn't have room.
Yeah.
For that.
I see what you're saying, but also I like this era of expedition because like now everything is so uniform because we've reached peak efficiency of clothing and how to like do these type of expeditions where it's like
everyone wears the same thermal outfit because it's the best one.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you look at like an Antarctic expedition, everyone is wearing like it's the 3M reflective stripes on the exact same Canada Goose adjacent uniform. Everyone is almost uniform identical. Whereas this is an era of expedition where it's like there were companies that made slightly better things than others, but most shit for something like this was something that was custom made for an individual person to survive this climate. So it's like it's Kurt Russell wearing this old style like fur-lined bomber's jacket, but like some people have like the general parka, but everything is just like a little bit specified for each individual person.
Yeah. They weren't given the standard winter gear.
Yeah.
They're like, you've got to pack your own.
It makes a cool look, a bomber jacket with like a big brim hat.
And goggles.
And the goggles.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. Everyone looks cool and they have like fun little things.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a little bit of personality if it's only 1982.
I like the little bit of personality. You just need to stay warm, you know? Well, look out for those whiteout conditions. That snow blows around.
Yeah, but then you have the guy who packed VHS tapes of game shows, which are only good to watch once.
Yeah.
Like you didn't broadcast signal a game show from Antarctica.
Yeah, I have questions about
You can bring a VHS tape. You bring a fucking movie.
Yeah, you want replay value in some regard.
The least replayable thing I can imagine.
Yeah. Just rocking some. I forget the name of that show, but you choose the door.
Yeah, I don't remember.
What is the name of that show? I forget that.
Monty Hall?
Maybe
the Monty Hall show.
Sure.
Because I think it's called the Monty Hall problem, the math problem.
I think you might be right.
Which I think is based on the show.
Yeah. It's the math problem is definitely based on the show. So if you got the math problem right, then you've got the show right. I'm gonna say.
I'm making connections.
So yeah, it's like going Antarctica with VHSs. If the Price is Right or whatever. It's just like why would you watch that multiple times of the same episode? It doesn't work.
That's a weird choice.
Yeah. So a very poor choice there.
Very poor choice. An interesting choice. I think the last thing that I want to dissect is I do have some questions about how Blair, the doctor who they tied up, who they locked away, I know they locked him away separately, but he still built an awful lot of a ship in 2 days.
Yeah,
that was a pretty big, almost done ship.
I can't quite remember how long this is supposed to take place over. At one point, they mentioned it has been 2 days, but I think that is on top of other days it's also been. So I don't know if it has been longer than 2 days.
I'm going to need it to have been quite a while.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because he definitely was not a thing when he got put in there. Because the thing would not have destroyed all the communication equipment.
Oh, I think he was always a thing.
You think he was always the thing?
Yeah.
Even when he was like sitting at his computer and you think he saw like it's going to take me 27,000 hours to destroy this world?
Yeah.
You think that was the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I think that was the thing, doing research as to how long it would take to succeed. And that was the thing, destroying their communications equipment to not warn the outside world so that the outside world does send someone to check in on them.
Oh, no. I took that as him genuinely wanting the thing stuck here, which is why he was destroying the tractors and the helicopters. And he's like, the thing has to stay here.
Oh, I thought that was trying to trap them here so that he could take them over and they couldn't go to get help.
No, because if he just didn't do anything, they would leave in 3 months.
I think they would like be testing and like worrying about shit until then. You got to make sure you don't communicate so no one figures out the tests. get everyone, make sure that no one leaves and says that this is happening, because then the army might just bomb the whole place. I think that might have been the thing preventing them from getting away.
Oh, I don't think it was. I think he got thinged when they like put him in a cabin by himself, because it's really easy to thing a guy when he's trapped inside a cabin.
Yeah, I do guess. So
like he could have been thinged at any time.
Yeah, all right, fair. You know what? Fair.
No, you're absolutely right that he could have like.
I hadn't thought about it too much.
Picture.
I'm thinking big picture just because that was my gut instinct, but I might be pushing back too much because yours is entirely valid as well.
Because also I think the Thing has such a survival instinct that he wouldn't draw that much attention to himself, like pulling out guns, like using an axe against other people.
Okay.
He would have been more subtle about it.
Interesting. Possible. Yeah, okay, I could get behind your idea as well. But I do agree that spaceship happens.
The spaceship
happens pretty quick.
He made a spaceship really fast.
Yeah. But also, I don't know if when other people aren't looking, if he can like tentacle out and go nuts. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess he could just take his clothes off and wouldn't ruin them.
Yeah. Could you do like 18 things at once while you're fully like tentacled out and just like going bananas making a spaceship?
That's a great point. He wouldn't be stuck in the human body if he was like, they just checked on me. I probably have like 12 hours of tentacling out.
Yeah.
You know what? That's an excellent point.
That is a tough one. I
think he could build a ship pretty quick then.
Huh. Maybe.
Because it seems like you can really make a lot of tentacles.
It seems like it's like there's...
unlimited.
You can kind of reproduce your own body to make it kind of big and wild and gnarly.
Yeah, they could do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Holy crap. I don't know if we talked enough about the visual effects.
I was just going to say that was my final like really positive point, just to be like every single shot is an absolute masterpiece in how to do practical effects.
It's a masterpiece. It looks incredible. And like, as I watch it, it's one of those things where you're like, oh my God, if they fuck up this take, like they've ruined it on like a few of them where like you tear the skin off and you reveal what's underneath. And it's like, oh my God, I bet if they didn't get this on the first take, like it's going to take a week to remake this. Those kind of ones that always freak me out. Like the one where the head disconnects from the body.
Yeah.
You definitely only have one take to pull that head off. But the head is also just like extending in a crazy way, and they don't have CG. It's all practical.
And the head is still making noise and animatronic
and
moving. The mouth is moving and the face is moving.
It's incredible. And it's so risky and it looks so good. And it's wildly impressive.
It's truly impressive that like the head scene is iconic. The chest coming open and biting the arms off the guy is wildly iconic as well.
I didn't really remember that happening at all.
Oh, okay.
The scene I remembered most in this movie, like the absolute clearest, was when the guy who's not Keith David is like proven not to be the Thing, and then it just hard cuts to him holding the flamethrower.
Such a funny edit.
Such a funny edit. No like untying him, no like, yay, I'm not it. Just like hard cut to flamethrower. It's so funny, and it was the thing I remembered so clearly in this film.
Very, very funny
Not
stuff.
any of the stuff with the cool... I mean, I remembered it had cool effects.
Yeah. I remember it had cool effects. Like the spider head, I remember being really good. I didn't quite remember Spider Dog being that intense that first time, and like the tentacles everywhere. That was really good.
I also didn't remember that. I might have repressed it for dog reasons.
Sure.
Of like, these dogs seem genuinely upset, and I don't know if I like that.
Mm-hmm.
They are all freaking out.
So that was and even just like when the spider dog is doing that thing where it's like the tentacles are grabbing the other dogs and also like centering itself on the wall as well, where it's like grounding itself so it can't be like as hurt or knocked back. And when it gets lit aflame, all of these tendrils start like snapping like rubber bands, and the sound effect is really sinewy and like the visual of it snapping. So it's not just like a stagnant prop. It's very interactive with the environment.
Yeah, it's interactive. The sound is like mixed in incredibly well. Like, and like they actually just like lit these things on fire sometimes. Like it's like we're done with this prop.
Yep. A couple of great just destroying props and sets, and a couple of very impressive stunt burns as well in this one, full body stunt burns.
Yeah, like the first guy who just like falls on his knees and he definitely was
has like
burning.
the lobster hands still.
Yeah, he definitely was doing a burn for a while.
And then just like the other transformations too, like the one who starts transforming on the couch with the other ones freaking out. That is a crazy one as well.
That one is, there's so much happening to be like, the other actors have to be freaking out. The couch is like tipping over because they're all trying to get off of it. He's going into the ceiling. All the goo is coming out. His eyes are popping out. There is so much happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
And then killing Windows, like kills him in that same scene.
Oh, yeah, that poor guy.
Yeah.
He was so stressed out.
And even that
time.
final, the thing, kind of like the underground monster that is all of them with like a dog head coming out and a human head and stuff like this. Like for regular listeners of the show, and if you follow me on social media, you might know I've been a big fan of the Resident Evil video game series for a long, long time. I've kind of forgotten what a impression of the thing that the Tyrant series of monsters in the Resident Evil games are, of the, like, there's an eye and a head and things poking out the side as it gets battle damaged. Like, it really is the creature from the Thing that Resident Evil just kind of does, which is entirely fine. Like, it is, inspired by that type of American horror. But, that last monster really kind of, like, brought it home to be like, oh, it's the Tyrant from Resident Evil 1 and 2.
Yeah, the last monster was cool. It kind of made you wish there was, like, one more animal in the Antarctic.
Ooh.
So, like, because, like, it's got human and dog, but it's like, no, that's all you had.
Yeah.
But, like, it's so cool still.
Yeah, I guess Penguin isn't really scary.
I'd love to see Thing Penguin.
What a slow speed getaway.
Little waddles?
It might do that, like, they can get a bit of speed when they do that little belly slide sometimes.
They can swim real fast.
Yeah. So belly slide.
Good way to get away from a helicopter.
Into water, if they can get into the water at some
Think
point.
about it, the Thing.
Think about it.
Next time.
Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? But before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It warms our hearts. We're in your hearts and on the charts. So please leave a review. It is a free way to support the podcast. It only takes a minute of your day. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, and you will get cool bonuses for doing so. Even at the $1 level, you will get our webcomic early. At the $3 level, you will get episodes of this podcast early and ad-free. And then at the $10 level, you will get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month, coming out later this week, we have an episode on Jason X, which is a real banger and a fun time treat.
Yes, our episode is a real banger and a fun time treat. Please don't be misled into watching Jason X.
Don't do it.
But you can hear our thoughts of Jason X if you are a $10 patron. And if you go to $10 level, you get immediate access to all the old episodes. There is so much talk from superheroes awaiting for you if you need more of our dulcet tones.
So head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And thank you to all of our current and future patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Diana, what would you change?
Not a whole lot. It's a pretty good film. My biggest change is actually going to be I will take out all of the references to the fact that the Thing is an alien. I actually don't like knowing that it's an alien, so I would take out, you don't get the spaceship in the beginning, you don't find the spaceship, you do find the casket, so you know that they found something. Because I like kind of the ambiguity. If we're going to have an ambiguous ending, I like the ambiguity of, is this an alien? Is this a demon? Is this some kind of just weird Antarctic life form that hasn't made it to other continents yet?
A millennia-old life form that got frozen here.
Yeah, and then this a continent split apart or something like that. I really like the idea of this just opening, no explanation of what's going on with the dog, no explanation of what this is ever. There are just no answers to be found. You just have to kill the Thing. So I'm gonna take away the small amount of answers we get and remove the everything about the spaceship and just be like, it just showed up and we didn't like it and we hope we killed it. And other than that, God, an incredible movie. And it doesn't even need that. Like, it absolutely still works this way, but I think there would be a little bit more of an unsettling edge if there was just like no answers about what the Thing was. And then it would really live up to its name, because this movie could be called The Alien because it's an alien. Mm-hmm. We know that for sure. The name's taken, But if we don't know what it is, then it truly is the thing.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
If I don't know if it's a demon or an alien or some kind of natural life form, it's just the thing. So that's my change. Andrew, what would you change?
I literally had the exact same change laid down, so I don't have anything different from you. I was flat out going to say, like, at the minimum, we remove the cheesy saucer spaceship from the big opening, from the very opening. And yeah, I would kind of be preferable to removing the alien spaceship kind of being out of the ice. I wouldn't even mind like heavy leanings on it. I think that yes, you do need to make it obvious that the Norway station, the Norwegian crew dug up something from the ice. You need to make that
that's cool.
exponentially clear. But I think that maybe you've got like a half-burned VHS tape, and it's like, what did they like bring up? And maybe it's like the tape's too grainy to quite make it out. I wouldn't even be against like heavily implying that it's aliens, but to full on 100% spoon feed us that, especially for a movie that's such about ambiguity. And about the fear of the unknown, it really makes something quite known.
Yeah, the rest of it is so like, oh my God, who do you trust and who's who? And it's like, the thing's an alien. Don't even worry about it.
It's an alien.
Literally, no one even questions that. Like Kurt Russell comes back and he's like, "Yeah, we found an alien spacecraft, so it's definitely an alien." And everyone's like, "Oh, okay, it's an alien. Cool, cool, yeah. No further questions."
I don't even understand why they needed that dig site slightly adjacent to the alien spaceship.
That's weird, right?
Because Kurt Russell
crashed and he just
one kind of escaped a little bit and
like
froze
4 feet away.
Yeah, or like got jettisoned. It was like, couldn't they have just found it in the spaceship?
Like Captain America style, like he crashed it accidentally.
Yeah.
That was a weird choice.
That was also.
But I guess they couldn't fit the whole ship inside the Norwegians' like camp, so they were like, "What can we bring to the camp?"
Or they didn't have the money for a spaceship interior. Maybe.
Oh yeah, that was a model. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, but yeah, I have literally the exact same change.
Sorry. It's a real shame I go first sometimes.
No, I think it's entirely fine. I think it's a credit to this movie that literally there's only one thing that both of us can think of, and it's like I don't even have like really like a goof other one. Everything else is just pretty tight.
It's pretty tight.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for our conversation on The Thing. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be back. We're going to be talking about Freddy versus Jason next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me online. I'm on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I'm at Ivimey, Ivimey.
I'm on Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find both of us and all of our podcasts and other work at FromSuperheroes.com. Thank you all for listening. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.